still blocking the right lane. Farther north, delays are from the Reagan Tollway most of the way to Lawrence. But Adams Tollway stop and go 31 before Roselle. Reagan Tollway, Farnsworth, Yackley, and the northbound Veterans Memorial I-55 most of the way to St. Charles. Edens, 23 minutes, Lake Hook to the junction. Kennedy, 50 minutes, O'Hare to downtown. The Ike, 57 minutes from 390th, 40 minutes from Manheim. Stevenson, an hour and 12 minutes, 355 to the drive. The Ryan, 48 minutes from 95th. That's traffic. I'm Jim Calamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Sunny and beautiful today, a high near 70. 52 at O'Hare, 56 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Don't forget that you can watch Chicago's Morning Answer on the Income Store live video stream every morning at 560theanswer.com.
Don't miss Sean Hannity, Michelle Malkin, and Laura Logan at Freedom Summit 2019. Get your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst, had a Twitter thread, tweeted a thread on the topic of the whistleblower complaint, informant complaint, whatever descriptor you prefer, suggesting some concerns about it, some issues with it. And then he had this exchange with Fredo Cuomo on his show on CNN.
I've seen a number of whistleblowing complaints from intelligence officers in my time with the CIA and the House Intelligence Committee. When I saw this one, I thought it was very unusual, not just that it was extremely well written, but it had legal references and legal footnotes. That was a little bit unusual. But I compared that with the fact that Adam Schiff was talking about the subject matter of this complaint throughout the month of August. He posted a footnote, a tweet at the end of August, almost identically reflected this complaint. Now, I know from my time on the House Intelligence Committee, whistleblowers frequently come directly to the committee. They're not supposed to, but it happens all the time. So I put this out on Twitter. The day that I did, a senior staffer with the House Intelligence Committee, a Republican, told me, "We think you're exactly right, and this was a group project, and my colleagues were involved." And also that evening, a senior member of the House Intelligence Committee, also a Republican, said, "We think you're right on target, and we want to ask this whistleblower under oath, how did you put this together? Who did you work on with it? And did you work on this with the House Intelligence Committee Democrat lawyers?"
All right, but just to be clear, at this point, you don't know any of that. You're raising it as questions, but as a guy who worked in the intelligence business, you know that that is meaningless until you can put some meat on the bones. Of course, the Republicans are agreeing with you. That's the whole state of play right now. Anything you say that's negative about this guy or this woman, they're going to pick up on.
Oh, you can say that, Chris, but I'm an analyst. Analysts draw conclusions. I looked at the evidence.
What's the proof?
I looked at my
legalese in the writing? The Schiff tweet doesn't echo the complaint.
I said it wasn't just a legalese. It was my experience. It was what Schiff said in August. It was my discussions with members and staff of this committee. I might be wrong, but I gave my opinion based on my experience.
Hey, Fredo, get in the boat. That was before it was conceded that Adam Schiff's staff had been contacted by the whistleblower, before the whistleblower went to the IG, and everything that we know now, including the latest revelation, the reporting by Byron York, the Washington Examiner, that some indicia of an arguable political bias in favor of a rival political candidate, the sentence that was included in the intelligence community's Inspector General note statement. Well, that turns out to be, according to, again, Byron York, multiple sources, per Michael Atkinson, the Inspector General's testimony behind closed doors to the House Intel Committee, that the whistleblower, the original whistleblower, has some sort of professional or working relationship with one of the Democrat candidates for president. So I guess Fred Fleitz has more insight into these matters than Chris Cuomo. Who would have thought? For more information on this and more insight, we're pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Fred Fleitz, who's the president and CEO of the Center for Security Policy. Now, Fred, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Congratulations on your vindication there with Chris Cuomo and CNN. The perspective you have now, as the information that I just described has come out, including the apparent connection between the whistleblower and one of President Trump's rivals, and how that should be received, addressed by those involved in this impeachment inquiry?
Well, first, let me say Chris Cuomo is a good guy and a good debater, and he had me on his show last night, and we discussed more dimensions of this issue. So I don't want to bash Chris Cuomo.
All right, I'll do it.
Well, you raised something very interesting. Now, we had heard that there was some type of political bias referred to almost in passing by the intelligence community inspector general. And now we hear that this person had some type of working relationship with one of the Democratic presidential candidates. So let me raise this thought. What if that candidate is Joe Biden? Let's think about that. If he had, and look, I don't know that that's the case, but look, Biden was vice president. An awful lot of U.S. government employees would have had relationships with Biden while he was there. Could be he was working with one of these other candidates who was a senator. But I want to know which candidate it was. That, for me, that has a lot to do in understanding this so-called whistleblower's motivations.
Because if it is somebody linked to Biden, I mean, is that why the Democrats are going to such great lengths to protect this whistleblower's identity by maybe taking him to an undisclosed location where only, a few lawmakers are going to be, not the whole committee, and putting him behind a screen and distorting his voice?
Well, I raised this with Cuomo last night. Let's think about this. The Democrats want to impeach a sitting president using a secret witness the American people won't get to hear from, who will testify in a secret hearing with his appearance and voice obscured and from a remote location, so the Republican members of the committee can't question him face-to-face and don't know his identity. This is something I'd expect to happen in the Soviet Union or communist China. This is not the way our system of government is supposed to operate. This whistleblower has to be made available for a face-to-face hearing, maybe a closed hearing, with all the members of the Intelligence Committee so they can look at him and ask him about his motivations.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things it would suggest, if this whistleblower is connected to the Biden campaign, is that this complaint was about running interference into looking at what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were doing in Ukraine and perhaps China.
I was complaining to Chris Cuomo last night about the procedures are being used for this impeachment query. There's supposed to be a vote of the House. It's supposed to be done by judiciary, according to what this is done in 7498. And the minority has significant and equal rights in such a process because it's so serious. But the Republicans in this process, their rights are strictly limited. They can't call all the witnesses they want to. And one reason is, I think the Democrats are worried, is they will call Hunter Biden and ask him under oath about the $50,000 a month he was getting from a shady Ukrainian gas company while his father was vice president. The Democrats do not want people talking about that.
Yeah, that's clearly. In addition to, just go back to now what you described as how this is proceeding in secret, at least that's how the Democrats would like it to proceed. And then the White House's response, the letter that was sent to House Democratic leaders yesterday by their corp counsel, said, we're not going to cooperate. They pulled Sondland back, and we're not cooperating because you're trying to do something in secret that needs to be open for public scrutiny and presented with the opportunity for some sort of adversarial processing. And I wanted to get your take on if you thought that that's a fair response from the White House.
I think it was the perfect response. The Democrats are complaining, like, we have subpoena power, and the Constitution says we just have to hold, and we can hold an impeachment query. It doesn't say how we have to. They're, of course, right about that. But given how extremely grave it is to impeach a president, it's important that they go the extra mile to assure the American people that the process is fair and that the president isn't being railroaded. Well, he is being railroaded. And if the Democrats want to sue the White House and other Republicans for not cooperating with the subpoenas, let them. It will take months. And I got to tell you, I predict that the courts are going to defer to the Republicans because Pelosi is ignoring established precedent.
Yeah.
Do you think that that John Brennan is getting a little bit nervous, a former CIA director, and he made a pronouncement the other day of sort of, it wasn't exactly this, but the implication was sort of we were just following orders. I mean, you still have the Durham investigation ongoing, and the suggestion is that the timeline has been expanded beyond 2016 and up into to, including the spring of 2017. And I just wonder if maybe some of those Obama era agency heads are a bit jumpy these days.
I've discussed this subject with the president several times, and he's very concerned that intelligence was weaponized in 2016 to defeat him. And I think he's exactly right. Whether it was FISA warrants or names of Trump campaign officials being demasked from NSA reports, John Brennan running around, handing out the Steele report, trying to get it into analysis. Brennan was way over the line in terms of political activity. I think he's nervous. I don't think it's going to be hard to prove that he was actively working against the president in 2016. Against candidate Trump in 2016, and now he's trying to do some spinning to basically discount whatever this new inquiry comes up with.
And what's your assessment of the job that Gina Haspel is doing at CIA? She has been, I mean, I understand the CIA director is not supposed to be, making the rounds on the Sunday talk shows all the time and talking about what they're up to. But Mike Pompeo was a little bit more public than Haspel. And I wonder, particularly since so much of this controversy centers around her agency, how you assess her silence.
I like Haspel. She was handpicked by Mike Pompeo. Haspel and Pompeo have done an incredible job in rebuilding trust between the White House and the intelligence community that was damaged by a lot of the partisan activities in 2016 when intelligence officers told the press they'd refused to brief Trump because they didn't like him or thought he was a traitor. Harry Reid saying intelligence officers should give Mr. Trump fake intelligence briefings. He said that in August of 2016. And all this nonsense from John Brennan. Haspel has worked hard to build a relationship of trust with Mr. Trump. And it's just too bad that these supposed whistleblowers are going to undermine the hard work that she put into that.
Do you think that the second whistleblower coming forward, perhaps others will too, is so much sort of trying to substitute volume for the lack of substance?
It could be. I think it was suspicious that the second whistleblower showed up as the credibility of the first one was collapsing after it turned out that Adam Schiff had made multiple false statements. They were so serious, the Washington Post gave him 4 Pinocchios in a fact-checker article. Now, the second whistleblower, I think, has even less credibility because he didn't bother to go through the process of filing a whistleblowing complaint. He first telegraphed he was going to do so in the New York Times. That's not a whistleblower. That's a partisan.
And he is the same attorney as the first whistleblower.
Well, I understand that this second whistleblower may have been someone who may have been informing the first whistleblower about his concerns concerning the transcript of the president's discussion with the Ukrainian prime minister.
Yes.
It's so funny. CNN this morning was saying that the phone call left the whistleblower shaking.
Yes, it's also melodramatic, isn't it? I mean, these are supposed to be like, steely-eyed CIA analysts and operatives, and they, a phone call that proceeds in sort of the vernacular of how President Trump speaks publicly and privately shakes a CIA agent to his or her core. It's a little bit overwrought. I sense.
That's exactly right. Like, we've all read this transcript. Nobody feels that way. Nobody who has any sense. I have read and edited dozens of transcripts of presidential phone calls of foreign leaders. I never saw anything he said there that was illegal or reportable or impeachable. We know President Trump is a unique president. He's thrown out the rule book in terms of diplomacy. He started one-on-one talks with Kim Jong-un that I hope will succeed. People criticize him for that, but I like to say to these people, what would you do? Nothing else has worked. So I just don't think there's anything here.
With respect to the CIA, the allegations, and you just mentioned you think that the intelligence community was weaponized for political purposes under the previous administration. But I mean, it's gone a little bit stronger than that. I mean, the talk of a deep state, the talk of a fifth column action in the U.S. government against this president, both as a candidate and as president. I mean, how, number one, do you think that's real? And number two, how pervasive is it if it is?
In the CIA, the State Department, the Defense Department, I think the vast majority of federal employees are non-political. They don't care which party holds the White House. They're not working against the president at the CIA. There are many, many supporters of President Trump at the CIA. Now, having said that, to make sure these people do their job and keep politics out of the job, we have to have good leaders in place. And look, this has been a problem for this administration. They haven't filled administration jobs. A lot of the jobs they filled have not gone to good people, and too many jobs are vacant. Good people who support the president's agenda and will keep the government honest have to be put in confirmable jobs. They're not there. They're not there in the intelligence community. They're not there at state and DOD. Until that happens, we're going to have some of the holdovers, bad apples who were promoted to senior jobs by John Brennan and other Obama officials. They're going to continue to run the show. I regret that hasn't been fixed. I hope it's going to be fixed in the second term.
Interesting point. Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst, president and CEO of Center for Security Policy. Fred, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to be here.